to Fearless Friday, your day to reclaim your weekend and your life. This week we're going to talk about a really hot topic, personal triggers, also known as childhood triggers or triggers that stem out of your childhood. Now, these are things that set you off that very much are a reaction instead of a response and really cause this chain of events to happen, such as, prime example, my childhood trigger or my personal trigger is being ignored. This is something that stems from my childhood. When I was young, very young, my mom used to give us the silent treatment anytime we did something she didn't approve of or she was upset with us, us meaning me and my sisters, and that really stuck with me. That really allowed me to see something, for one, that I didn't want to do as a parent when I was a parent. I knew from a very young age that the energy of it was very restrictive and cold and tight, and I just didn't like it. So I actually told myself, if I ever have kids, I'm never gonna do this to them. But what was really remarkable, and I find this actually fascinating, excuse me, is throughout the years, the one time that I find myself reacting instead of responding to situations are a situation in which I'm being ignored or I feel like I'm being ignored or avoided. And recently I was at a Super Psychic Saturday event at a local place called Nirvana Body and Soul. And it was a fabulous event, and I was speaking with one of the other readers who also does, shamanic work. And we were talking about how layered our egos are and how layered our life is and our shadow work, and how when we start this work, it really never is finished. And we're also talking about triggers and things that come up on a daily basis or weekly or monthly basis that we thought we've dealt with in the past. However, even though we have dealt with it in the past, it's just another facet or another layer of it. Now, personal triggers or childhood triggers, when we are consciously aware of them and know about them, that's the first step, is realizing what our trigger is. And literally, this is the trigger that when you see yourself in mid-trigger or mid-reaction, or even afterwards, you go, what the hell was I thinking? Oh my God, or you just say, WTF, and because we're reacting or respond, it's actually not even a response, it's a reaction. It really is almost like someone lighting a fuse and then having a chain reaction of events happen. So when this childhood trigger gets started, it really is a chain of events that happens that all of a sudden it's very hard or challenging to stop that series of events from happening. And many times, literally afterwards, we're like, oh my God, what the hell did I just do? Because you've said something that maybe you regret now, and really it is like being a child again and going into a little temper tantrum, But the key is to notice, first of all, recognize and know your personal triggers, that when X happens, this is how I respond or react to it. And it really is a reaction. It's not really a response because we don't even think about it. And versus a response, so reaction is when we just don't even think about it, we just boom, react. Response is when we can actually take time to settle into it and think about it and then respond accordingly. Now, so the key is to figure out your personal triggers that when this happens, boom, all of a sudden you react a certain way. Now that's the first step. The next step is to recognize what certain traits or attributes of relationships trigger those particular reactions from you. From mine, it's feeling avoided, feeling ignored, or feeling like I'm not being heard. When that happens, I instantly feel frustrated, sad, confused, this whole gamut of emotions. And our emotional selves are childlike. We very much are childlike because our emotions are rooted in our childlike self and in our spirit and in that childhood essence. So this week I challenge you to pay attention and reflect on and notice what your personal triggers are. What things are going on in your life that trigger a reaction instead of a response. And then afterwards you're like, oh shit, what the hell did I just do? Dang it! And then you have to kind of clean up the mess afterwards. All of us do this. This is part of learning how to navigate through life. And one of the easiest ways to do this is really to recognize what your personal triggers are and own it and say, you know what, I know this is a trigger of mine. And so maybe, if you're in a relationship with someone who maybe does not prefer a certain, level of communication that you do. Let's just say that you prefer text messaging and they prefer, talking on the phone. And so you send all these text messages, but you never hear anything back. However, if you were to have picked up the phone and called the person, they would have picked up, oh, hey, how's it going? So figure out what that trigger is for you, and then communicate that to the people that you are in relationships with. So if you are in a business relationship with someone, and you know that one of your personal triggers is to have things in order, and maybe someone in your office does not file the way that you would like them to file, and so that's one of your personal triggers. And so instead of responding to the person saying, hey, let me show you how to file this way, instead you fly off the handle and freak out, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they're crying, and then you're in HR's office explaining what happened. So this is just one example, because we're in relationships with so many different people and so many different facets of our life. The key is to figure out what facets of our life and what relationships in each facet are affected by your personal trigger that stems from your childhood. So this week I challenge you to notice and pay attention and become aware and acknowledge your personal childhood trigger and how it affects your life, how it can be detrimental, and also how it can serve you by allowing you to be more conscious of those aspects of your relationships that are triggered by your childhood triggers. And that's the first step, is really acknowledging what it is and then being able to communicate to the people that you're with. And also, when you learn to do that, to recognize what your personal trigger is and then communicate that with the people that you're in, relations with, whether it's an intimate relationship or whether it's a business relationship or any other facet of relationships, being willing to and able to communicate that, saying, this is my stuff, I know that this is one of my personal triggers, just FYI, and talk through it, because many times when someone else knows what your personal trigger is, sometimes they may push those buttons so that they can get that reaction out of you, but other times they'll honor that and say, okay, I understand, thanks for letting me know, and then you can work around it and together through it. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure to go to my website and sign up for your free gifts you won't want to miss out, as well as newsletters and free offerings that I only offer for those who sign up for my newsletter. Until next week, bye-bye. Mwah.